I'm Ryan from ExtremeTerrain.com, and today we have a 2015 Wrangler that used to be stock. The idea behind this build was to make it look really cool and set it apart from every other silver four-door that rolled off the assembly line. And for us, that meant squeezing 35-inch tires underneath this Jeep and having enough lift to support that. So let me walk you through the build. For this Jeep, we knew we wanted to run 35-inch tires, so we would need enough lift to handle that. This Jeep will spend most of its time on the road, but we want to be able to take it off-road every so often, and we want it to be able to handle itself. So we needed enough clearance between the top of the tire and the bottom of these fender flares. So for that, we decided to go with the Rough Country 3.5-inch Series 2 lift kit with shocks. That gives us the clearance we need without completely breaking the bank. So this Rough Country lift kit is really complete, and it has everything that most other coil spring lift kits, including shocks, will come with. Of course, the springs, the shocks, you'll have new sway bar links, bump stops, brake line extension brackets, all those goodies. But this lift also includes some things that a lot of other kits on the market don't include. This Rough Country Series 2 kit includes new front lower control arms, and those are important when lifting the Jeep 3.5 inches or more. When you lift the Jeep that high, you actually lose some caster, which can give the Jeep a flighty feel going down the highway, and you also lose some of your pinion angle, which can cause some driveline vibrations or excessive drive shaft wear. So these new lower control arms put your caster and pinion back closer to spec, and they're a really nice feature to have. Now the control arms that come in this kit do have factory-style rubber bushings on both ends. So they'll do a good job of giving you back your pinion and your caster angle, but they're not going to do a lot for you as far as adding articulation. So if you're going to get into more hardcore off-roading and you really want that articulation, you want to upgrade to some aftermarket control arms that have spherical joints on both ends. Another unique part included in this kit are the rear coil spring correction plates. Again, when you're lifting 3.5 inches, the rear coil springs can get a little bit of a bow to them if you're still running factory control arms. It's not necessarily harmful, but it doesn't look the best, and it can lower the amount of lift that you're getting. So these correction plates will make sure you get a full 3.5 inches of lift. The last couple of unique components included in this kit are the front track bar relocation bracket and the drop pitman arm. The front track bar relocation bracket will flatten out your track bar angle, which is beneficial in both on-road and off-road driving and handling characteristics. The drop pitman arm that's included in the kit works in conjunction with the track bar relocation bracket to keep the drag link and track bar in parallel. If those two bars go out of parallel, you might end up with bump steer. If you're worried about completely centering the axle into the vehicle, you can always spend a couple extra dollars and get a front adjustable track bar. To get this lift kit installed, you'll have to first support the Jeep from the frame and remove or disconnect everything that keeps the axles from completely drooping. That includes the track bars, sway bar links, brake lines and emergency brake lines, drive shafts, and shocks. Once the axles are allowed to completely droop, you can pop out the old springs and shocks and put everything back together with the new components. There's a little bit of drilling involved to install the front track bar bracket and the front bump stop extensions. But other than a drill, the only tools you'll need are a regular socket set and wrenches. I think we can all agree that the lift kit was the most functional part of this build. Everything else we did was to make it look really cool and set it apart from every other JK that rolled off the assembly line. And a big part of that was the wheels. For this build, we decided to go with the Maverick wheel by Fuel, and they feature a matte black finish with the milled accents. I think these wheels would look really good no matter what color Jeep you have, but they look amazing with our silver Jeep with all the other black accents that we did. Like a lot of other wheels of this style, the Maverick is aluminum. It features a unilug stud pattern, which means it'll fit on a lot of different applications, including the 5-on-5 pattern that we need for our JK. Because this wheel does fit on a lot of different applications, it's not going to be hub-centric on these axles. The wheel also has a 4.5-inch backspacing, which means that even when we're running a large, wide tire like this, everything is pushed away from the Jeep far enough that it's not going to rub on the frame or on the control arms when you turn lock to lock. Another part we installed on this Jeep to make it look unique and set it apart from the rest is this rugged ridge front tube bumper. The tubular style gives it a little bit of that throwback feel, and I think it works really well with what we built here. Now this definitely isn't an off-road bumper. You can see it doesn't have recovery points, a winch mount, or even additional light mount points. But for what we want to do with our Jeep, which is daily drive it and take it on some light trails every so often, this keeps weight down and keeps the cost down. Even though this bumper is mostly for looks, it does have a couple of functions that I really like. It opens up the area in front of the tire, so when we do take this Jeep off-road, we don't have to worry about having any clearance issues, and it accepts the factory fog lights, so we don't have to spend money on aftermarket lighting. The last part we installed during this build is the Rugged Ridge Black Euroguard light kit. This is a 17-piece kit that includes everything except for the fog light covers. I really like this kit because it drastically changes the exterior look of the Jeep, even more so than a lot of more expensive modifications. And I really like it because you're not doing anything permanent and it's a really easy install. Everything goes on into factory screw holes or with 3M tape. So now that we got our Jeep lifted, the tires are on, everything's adjusted, our bumper's in place, it's time for the fun part. We get to take this thing out on the road, see how it rides, see how it handles with all those new suspension components and these big wheels and tires. So now that we finally have this Jeep back on the road, I gotta say it feels really good. It's pretty stable on the road, there's not a ton of body roll, and it handles bumps really nicely. With any one of the more budget lift kits, there's always some room for improvement, and that's okay. A lot of that improvement is in the ride quality area, so shocks for the most part. These shocks are the rough country shocks that come in the lift kit. They are the nitrogen shocks, so they are supposed to ride a little bit better than the hydro shocks that are included in some other kits, and I think they do. There's nothing wrong with this ride out of the box. It works pretty well, it handles bumps well, it feels stable. Even going around turns at 3.5 inches of lift, sometimes you might feel a little bit top heavy, but between the track bar brackets that are included and all the other bracketry to get your geometry back in spec, it feels pretty good. The lower control arms that are included in this kit up front do correct your caster, so you don't get that flighty feel, and it does feel planted on the road, which is really nice. Anytime you go up to a 3.5 inch lift, sometimes you can get a little bit of that wandery, flighty feel, but we don't have any of that. It's really stable. Now, because this kit does include the front track bar relocation kit and the drop pitman arm, you are going to have to recenter your steering wheel after everything's back on the ground and under its own weight. Now, that's not a big deal. Jeep makes that really easy. There's an adjustable collar. You just have to loosen a couple of bolts and you'll be able to recenter that wheel, but it is a step that you'll want to take. You do feel a little bit of additional feedback through the steering wheel, and I think that has something to do with that drop pitman arm setup. Personally, if I was running the system, I would ditch the drop pitman arm and also ditch that front track bar bracket and go with an adjustable front track bar instead. I feel it's a little bit more of a stable setup, but the components that are included in this kit will absolutely work, and they will absolutely get you back on the road and your suspension working with bigger tires. On the road during everyday driving, your bumper isn't going to serve much of a function no matter what type of bumper you have. And as we said before, the bumper we installed, it's not an off-road bumper. It doesn't have the winches and the additional light mounts and the additional recovery points and all of that stuff. But on the road, it looks good. And the fact that it accepts the factory fog lights, I really like. So all in all, the bumper I think was a really good pick. When you combine that with our Rugged Ridge Euro Light Guard kit and the black fuel wheels, the entire package looks really, really nice, especially on the silver Jeep. Now, if you've never driven a Jeep with larger tires on it without being recalibrated, you might not notice how much of a difference a proper recalibration makes. While recalibrating isn't a super exciting part of installing a lift kit, it is absolutely necessary, and I definitely suggest the Superchips Flashcal for that purpose. It just makes things really, really easy. Especially on an automatic Jeep like this, recalibrating is really, really important. Having the proper tire size in the PCM will get your shift points back to being accurate, as well as your speedometer and your odometer. All of those are really important, and without a calibrator or a reprogrammer, they're just not going to be right. Another really nice feature of that calibrator is to be able to adjust the TPMS alarms. So even though we have these big 35-inch tires aired down to what they should be, about 33 pounds in this case, we don't have that annoying dinging every time we turn the vehicle on, and we don't have that TPMS sensor light on the dash. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to take this Jeep off-road today, but just knowing what I know about the suspension after installing it and seeing all the components that are included, I can tell you it is going to work well off-road. It's going to give you that clearance to run a larger tire without rubbing on the frame or the control arms, and that bumper also gives us some additional clearance. The good news is the shocks that come with this lift kit are long, which means you're going to have a lot of down travel and a lot of up travel, even when you use the included bump stops. The downside of all that down travel is that even with the brake line bracket relocation kit that's included in the lift kit, the brake lines do get a little bit close to tight. For my personal preference, I would still get an extra set of longer brake lines to install on this vehicle, just to make sure that the lines aren't going to tighten up when you're flexing. So we started out with this build. We wanted to put together something that looked really good. We didn't want our Jeep to look like every other silver Jeep that rolled off the assembly line. And we wanted to fit 35-inch tires, again for the looks, but also so we could take this thing off-road on the weekend and have some fun with it. And after driving the Jeep on the road, I can say that we accomplished all those goals. Between the bumper, the light guards, and the black wheels, this Jeep looks really, really good, and you will not mistake it for any other Jeep in the parking lot. And the rough country lift kit allowed us to run those 35-inch tires all without breaking the bank. I'd say this is a really well-rounded build. And even though unfortunately we didn't get to take it off-road now, we were able to find some leftover snow mounts to blast through, and we still had so much fun with it. So that wraps up this build. For more cool Jeep builds and other great Jeep content, make sure you subscribe to ExtremeTerrain videos. For now, I'm Ryan from ExtremeTerrain.com. Thanks for watching.